Welcome back to the Iowa State University Beef Teaching Farm, everybody. Today we're going to talk about a piece of equipment that we use year-round here at the teaching farm. That would be our feed wagon right behind us. We're going to talk to you about some of the features that we like for this operation when we're looking at feed wagons right after this. Relationships are the foundation of agriculture. Proud of the relationships that we built within the department and the industry. These are the people that make our worlds go around on a day-to-day basis, and they're the foundation of everything that we do. All of those relationships are built on trust and respect. We involve our students in the relationship building process by allowing them the opportunity to meet with industry leaders and professionals. We're the Iowa State University Beef Teaching Farm, and we're grateful to be part of an industry that's built on relationships. Welcome back to the ISU Beef Teaching Farm, everybody. Today we're going to talk to you all about something that we kind of overlook or we take for granted sometimes, is our feed wagon. This piece of equipment has to run every day to feed our cattle in our feed yard. The way our operation is structured is that when we look for a feed wagon, our feed wagon has to wear a lot of different hats because we have to do a lot of different tasks with it. I prefer a horizontal mix wagon because we elect to have all of our hay custom tub ground so that we can do a really good job of controlling our particle size, and there's some efficiencies with our commodity shed that we can utilize by having that hay tub ground in one shot by a custom operator. When we're looking for a feed wagon here, and when we look at updating feed wagons, it has to do a couple of things well for us. Being that we're mainly a cow-calf operation, it has to be able to handle high roughage diets very well. With our tub ground hay, with our particle size, this mixer, or this style of mixer, a horizontal mixer, does a very good job for us. And it also does a good job. This one has the ability to put on what we call a fines clean out kit so that we can even mix creep feed in this wagon, which is nice for us. We can handle some bulk ingredients, still mix our creep feed in the wagon, and then fill creep feeders if we need to. When we're handling silage and tub ground hay, this wagon does a very good job of mixing and kind of how it folds the ingredients together. If I was just a commercial feed yard, this may not be my wagon of choice, but for feeding large, bulky cow diets, this works really well. Some things that I'm going to look for on a feed wagon when I'm looking for it is keep in mind this piece of equipment needs to run all the time. We don't have a backup wagon here, so maintenance on this piece of equipment is crucial. We do a lot of preventative maintenance. When things even look like they're starting to wear, we'll elect to go ahead and replace. This wagon's very efficient for horsepower. We can run a big wagon with not as much horsepower based off the way that these wagons tend to operate. There are also some other ones on the market that operate very similar. All the bearings on this are all standard sized, which is important that if we have a bearing go out or a bearing failure, I can go to any local machine shop and I can get that bearing off the shelf. It's a very standard size. All of our U-joints and everything are also standard sized. Everything has grease zerks. It's easily accessible, very easy to get to. Our common wear items would be like our rubber components and our springs on our mixed paddles. We need to make sure that if we start seeing it throwing feed out, we get those springs changed out. For us, that's about every 2 to 3 years. We're going to go ahead and replace those. Chains are a very heavy chain. We lube chains weekly. We grease our wagon weekly. We probably over lube and over grease our wagon, but I would much rather have that than under grease and under lube and have it wear prematurely. Our scale system on here, we try and go through and make sure that all that scale weigh bars and wires are looked at good at least once a year. We try and keep our wagon fairly clean, which if you have a feed wagon, you know this can be a big challenge, especially in the spring. So give it a bath once in a while and give it a good look over is pretty crucial to making sure that they operate correctly, as well as checking those scales and making sure that they're accurate for what you're doing on your operation. We're going to walk around to the other side and we're going to talk about our feed table. And one of the unique things that we look for in a feed table for specifically how we feed cows so that this wagon has the capabilities that we need. So as you can see here, this is our feed table. We put an extra heavy chain in these. It's a heavy cast link pintle chain that we use. Tend to get a lot longer life out of them. We want to make sure we check the tension on this chain. We do have an updated chute on this to prevent feed coming over this lip and getting carried back down under here. That'll end up rotting this out or binding up, especially if your wagon sits in an unheated area, which ours does in the winter. We've had problems in the past with breaking chains due to freezing feed in winter months. All the cylinders on our wagons, we want to make sure that they're fairly standard sizes. I like all my hydraulic fittings to either all be National Pipe Thread or all JIC so that we can get fittings for these wagons very easily. We have independent hydraulic control on our feed table. It's run with a simple orbital motor kit. A lot of wagon manufacturers have an option for this. We always put that option on so that we can feed in piles if we're going to be feeding a set of weaned calves, maybe out on a cereal crop, or if we've got a set of calves that we're going to background, and for feeding those cows so that we can put that feed in like a pile. Instead of laying it out in a long line, we found that we can more efficiently feed that in a pile if we need to feed on the ground than laying it out in a big line. We want to make sure that this thing is fairly heavy, well built. Another thing that a lot of people will overlook that I think is fairly important is to make sure that you have a tire that's readily accessible if you have a flat. These are just a takeoff tire off the front end of dump trucks that's commonly referred to as a super single. I like those tires because they're very easy to get. If you know anybody in the construction industry or the trucking industry, you can usually get those that are not highway worthy, but they'll work really good for this. We always have a spare on hand. We don't have nearly as many problems with these tires going flat as we did with other styles of implement tires on wagons in the past. We want to make sure that our bearings are checked yearly. With rough gravel roads and the amount of weight that we have, these wheels take a lot of abuse. So we want to make sure that those wheel bearings are looked at least annually, as well as making sure that just the wagon is fairly well kept. As things break, we want to fix it. Ours tends to take a little bit more abuse with student labor, so we want to make sure that we replace those wear parts as needed. One thing that I really like about some of the wagons is that they actually have a sideboard up here so that if the event something would hit it, we can just replace a board. This wagon is designed to only load from one side, and it has a lower side on the opposite side, which is very nice to put feed into. This wagon, however, does not do well with long stem material. So it's the one kind of Achilles heel in this. You got to watch out. So if you ever get long hay in it, that it won't get between your reel and the liner in the wagon and plug it. That can be an issue. We also always put poly liners in our wagons, and then we want to make sure that above the doors on wear plates, we're replacing those as necessary. We do have a door control. You can't see it because it's behind here, where we can close off and control the amount of feed that's going to come out onto this mixing table. Those are some of the things that we're going to look for in a wagon when we go ahead and purchase it. Keep in mind that we're mostly feeding cows with our wagon, but we have to have the flexibility to also feed a feed yard. We've elected to go horizontal instead of vertical. Just fits this operation a little bit better currently when we were purchasing this. And we've been really happy with it. So think about what the needs are for your operation when you're purchasing a feed wagon, what you're going to use it for. Just because your neighbor might have a really nice vertical mix or a horizontal mix might not fit your operation. If you're a feed yard, keep in mind that you need to make sure that you're mixing consistency, maybe even doing some mixer tests to make sure that you're completely getting that feed completely mixed to prevent hot spots is an important thing. So do some research, sit down, find the wagon that works best for your operation, and buy it, maintenance it, and these things will last a long time, and they can make your life a lot easier.